So one of the things that's most important here is that we understand that this is a strange environment. We are all working in different environments. Some of us have really nice soft flooring under us. Some of us have other types of flooring underneath us. Some of us have dogs that are on the floor with us. Some of us have corners of walls that are near us. Some of us have planters and other things that could be impacted if we come to the ground on top of it. And so I want everyone to be very aware of these things so that around you, you know where you can come down safely. And if you have anything that is going to obstruct yourself on the way to the ground, take a moment right now and get it out of the way so that we don't have those things to impale us on our way to the ground, kitty cats included.
Although that dog looks very comfortable.
Yeah, good luck with the dog. It's gonna be work. Kim, Kevin, maybe you got a base. From there, be conservative. If there are starting to work on things that you're like, I'm a little tired right now, or I had a really rough day doing nothing all day, and so I just need a little bit longer to ease into whatever progression we're doing, be conservative. This is just a class. It's an opportunity for us to all be practicing together, for us to go through some conditioning and some ranges of motion that will help keep and enhance our practice. But do not fight for anything too hard in this environment without all of the spotting and safety that we would normally have in a classroom. Be additionally conservative. Take a lesser option. Communicate to your partner, I want to do less frequently. Frequently communicate that to them so that we are not pushing each other into places of injury. And I got a thumbs up. All right. So to get a little bit of an understanding of what our space is like around us, we're going to start off in a very simple posture, and we're going to use it as a vehicle to explore coming to the ground. So we're just going to come into a side flying position, and then we're going to go through a range of motion with the base's legs and the flyer's entire body, trying to figure out how to come to the ground when we start to hit the end ranges of motion. We're going to show you a few options for that, and then give you a moment to explore it on your own. All right? Tell me if I'm in view.
Your head's a little cropped, but I can see what's saying.
So coming into the side flying position, and then I'm going to bring the flyer over my head and down. And I'm going to bring my flyer all the way around the other side and down. And as a flyer, we want to see if we can maintain whatever movement that's happening and not let it stall and stifle, but instead let it continue moving fluidly all the way to the ground, no matter which way this thing starts to go, just so that we have that basic understanding of how we're moving to the ground. Can y'all hear me decently enough when I'm not that close? Excellent. So play with this on both sides so that you're practicing coming out of this with one leading and one following leg, and then you can switch which leg leads and which leg follows. Cool? If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself temporarily for that moment, and then hop on back in. All right. What we're going to do next is we're going to go into a star, and from that star, we're going to look at a range of motion in a little bit of a forward fold, and then a little bit of a hip opening, just to get a little bit of movement through the flyer's hips and spine. So similar to a four-step, the flyer is going to present a shin. And as a base, I'm going to bend until we touch the flyer or help by bringing that shin down. But we're only going to make contact, and then we're going to go right back into extension and then reaching behind. And as a base, I have to look around the shoulder of the flyer to see the foot. We make contact there. And we can do that 2 times on each side. And then to the other side, same. We touch the shin. We touch the reverse foot to foot, shin, reverse foot to foot. Nice and simple, just to get warmed up in the bases, extensions, and legs, and to get the flyers working a little bit of a closed and a little bit of an open front body. In our advanced class, we do this in a hand-to-hand. This is, you're going to be able to keep a shoulder to foot connection still and do this from a star. So, should be relatively balanceable, right? Can I get a thumbs up? All right, prove it. Let's see yours. Cool. Next, what we're going to do is just a good little conditioning in a walk the plank with a little bit of a breaststroke or something similar to that.
With the legs.
So we're going to walk down our plank to our ankles. Then we're going to go wide. We're going to come into a squat. And then we're going to go straight down the center. We'll go wide, squat, straight down the center. I could do these all day. What about you, Emily?
I've got like 5 more.
Are you ideally not moving your arms at all? This is just a leg motion.
Yeah, for right now, let's make sure that those arms stay nice and stable so that we don't have instability in the upper part of the body, which is where head injuries can occur. So make sure that the arms are really stable. Move just the legs, and that way we can rely on the arms and the head being safe because of that. Make sense?
The movement, Lux.
Say again?
Who is leading the movement? The base?
You can choose. You can choose. I would say usually the person with the longer limbs for this one. Maybe the person with the shorter limbs so that the longer limbs don't take it past the range of the shorter limbed person.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. Very nice.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, what's up?
It seems like I was wanting as the flyer to, like the hands of the base go pretty far forward as I'm moving, and I feel like I'm putting a lot of stress on her wrists. I don't know if that was the case, but.
Yeah, we don't want to let it go too far forward. Ideally, the arms of the base stay stacked over the shoulders of the base, and then everyone in a reverse hand-to-hand grip should have a flat platform. Nobody should be beyond 90. Everyone's at 90 in a reverse hand-to-hand grip. But it will be flat. Any other questions? Rad. All right, so we're gonna just look at a little bit more of a range of motion as if we're doing a 4-step, but we're not really doing a 4-step. We're just going to go from star, we're gonna touch the shin of the flyer, and we're gonna bring the second leg of the flyer down to the ground next to the base's hips. And then we're gonna reverse that all the way to star, and maybe even do a walkover at the end of that. So it'll look like this. We make a connection with shin to foot on one side. The second leg comes all the way to the ground, and the base is going to have to bend the knees but keep the arms straight to get there. Right from there, I'm reaching with my free foot toward the shoulder of the flyer and pushing into the shin, and the flyer is going to ride that all the way into the inversion. So just reversing that out. One more time. Make the shin to foot connection. I extend the leg that's at the shoulder to help my flyer get upright, and then I bend the leg so that the flyer can touch the ground, and then reverse that all the way into the inversion. And then you can take a foot to the sacrum and do a walkout over the other side. Cool? Y'all need to see that again, or is that good? Thumbs up to say we're good, thumbs down to say you need it again.
Can you just show the
One more
walkover?
time, one more time.
One more time, one more time. From star, the shin to foot connection is made. The foot stays on the opposite shoulder, and I help extend that shoulder upright with my leg on the shoulder, and then the flyer brings their free foot to the ground, and then we reverse that. The weight comes back into the shin, the flyer curls and extends up to the ceiling as the base helps extend the legs back to the ceiling as well. And then from there, if you want, you can take your free foot, bring it to the sacrum of the flyer, and do a walkover from that position, as desired. Make sense?
Yeah. Next time, could you do it on both sides so we could see what your other foot was doing on the shoulder more clearly? Make sense?
Yeah. We'll even do that again right now for anyone that wants to stay and look at it. Also, feel free to just walk to the other side of us. Like, you can just walk around. Yeah.
Is that good for people to see?
Yeah. Some people got it already, and then other people stay to watch. Cool. All right, your turns. Yeah. All right, one last conditioning piece for our warm-up, and then we'll get into the rest of the content. This one is just going to be a nice little tightness exercise, largely for the flyer. What we're going to do is move from a back plank to a star, which is relatively straightforward. The only thing that we're going to ask specifically here is that the flyer keeps their eyeballs looking at their toes the entire time. That's going to help maintain a shape through the entire body that we're seeking. So that level of engagement is what we're seeking. Base is going to bend the knees until we can get our hand-to-hand grip. Flyer keeps the eyes on the toes. I'm going to turn my foot on the sacrum 90 degrees to support both sides of the body. And then the flyer, as much as they can push into the arms, it lifts the shoulders a little bit. And then that gives space for my foot to get to the shoulder. From there, I'm going to extend the leg that's on the hip and bend the knee that's on the shoulder so that I can get the stack of the flyer vertical and press up through that vertical stack into the inversion. And then we'll reverse that, holding on to that line all the way back down. Pushing through the arms, freeze the foot from the shoulder back to our back plank. And I'll do that on the second side. Turn the foot 90 degrees on the sacrum. We push through the arms to make space for the foot to get to the shoulder. Then we bend the knee that's on the shoulder, extend the leg that's on the sacrum. Push through that vertical stack into the inversion and reverse it all the way down, back plank to the ground. Relatively straightforward, just a nice little tightness exercise. Yeah? Questions? One of the things that, that was observed was just taking a look at making sure that we're not hyperextending our partner's wrists. When we have a hand-to-hand grip, that we want to make sure that we are pushing into this part of the hand right here, between the index and the middle knuckle, and that we're pushing that into this part of our partner's hands. And so that if we align there with each other, we should be looking to get it so that we both have equal amount of pressure there. If all of a sudden I push through my wrist rather than through my knuckles, we hyperextend each other. So I don't want to push through the wrist. I want to push through my knuckles, push through my partner's wrists, not through my own wrist. That way we can keep the angle of our flyer in a safer position, and we will not injure the wrists. So this can help lead which way we're making a rotation, which is usually what we're doing is we're finding extension through that rotation. Very rarely would we be rotating back this other way and be using a hand-to-hand grip to guide it. So really just looking at whatever point connection we are making, is it helping the movement, or is it actually only pretending to help the movement, but actually in the last moment hindering the movement by pushing through the wrong part of that connection point? Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Excellent, excellent, excellent. There's this thing that I wrote a lot of years ago. I think one of you, I think I've seen do it before. It's called a ninja star. You've done it. There's been, okay, I'm seeing recognition on a couple of people. It feels like maybe 3 people have seen this.
Some eye rolls.
Yeah. It's one of these things that's really easy to do and really difficult to do well. The nice thing is that I'm not actually seeking to do it tonight, but we're just going to take a look at a piece of it. And so we're going to use it as a calibration to look at another thing. So really the easiest part of the Ninja Star is the part that I care about for tonight. So the part that goes through the back plank, which is the more difficult part, that's the part I don't care too much about. So we're going to give it a look at the Ninja Star. We're actually not very calibrated in the Ninja Star with each other, so we'll see how this even looks. But we're looking at that as a vehicle to look at something else. So don't get too hung up on just this one piece. We're just going to look at that piece of it.
So
We're going to do the full Ninja Star. Yeah. All right. So if we can go this way. So we'll start off in our, it's like an inside star, but we're just not holding, we're holding a hand-to-hand grip. And from there, we're going to find our reverse front plank position, which is the one that we want nice and extended through the flyer's shoulders here. The base bends the knees and keeps the arms straight to accommodate that. As we come around to the backside here, we're going to ideally look at doing this as a back bend, so that the hips open, the legs go long away from you, away from you, away from you. You push through the arms and lift the chest to the ceiling. Keep on moving that way. I bend the knee in the opposite direction, which stacks the weight, and then we push into this new hand-to-hand grip that pushes us all the way back around to that reverse front plank position again. Lifts, lifts, lifts. And ideally, we try to make it so that we do not pike the hips here. The hips stay nice and open. This one always wants to pike, always wants to pike. And then that's all we're seeking. It's just a few Ninja Stars like that. One of the things that I want to just emphasize here for the base is this idea of the legs are hip-width apart as I'm on the hips of the flyer, and I bend the knee exactly the width of the hip, so that I tilt the weight onto one side, and then as we come around, I tilt it to the other side, exactly the hip of the width on the other side, so that we're keeping this very small container of this rotation and not dropping it so much that we have to come out of it because we're over dropping that knee to stack the hip, or that we're making the flyer pull themselves into a stack on the legs and the bases keep their legs straight. Bases, I want you to do that work of really bending the knees so that we're articulating the hips of the flyer, and then the arms are really the flyer's greatest power to keep the chest lifted and push through the base's arms and lead a lot of this rotation from the flyer's perspective. A lot of things going on, and I know that it's one of those things that it's like real easy to do, real hard to do well, and we're just going to see if we can get at least some pieces of it. Bases, see how smooth you can make this. Flyers, try not to over crank yourself, and see if you can follow the hips and lead the arms. Follow the hips, lead the arms. Flyers, if you take your head and lead the direction of the rotation, this tends to work really well. Use your head and just look where you're going next, look where you're going next, look where you're going next, and the body tends to follow well. There's one leg that wants to over pike. You'll feel it. Questions? 3, 2. So from there, we're going to work on a piece called the Dust Buster. The thing that we're going to look at is really just in 2 or 3 different parts. The first part that we're going to look at is going from a reverse throne to this Ninja Star. And we're just going to let that one piece be what we look at, and we'll let that come to the ground. All right, so I'm going to start as a base by rotating my legs so that my flyer is turning toward me, and I'm going to put my hand up for my flyer to take a hand-to-hand grip. From there, flyer is going to reinforce that with the second arm, and they're going to use that to unhook the front leg and lift that leg so that I can get to the hip. Let's actually come down and take a look at that again. All right, so we'll take our hand-to-hand grip. That'll be reinforced with the second hand of the flyer. From there, the flyer releases their front leg and lifts that hip so that the foot can reposition at the hip away from the hamstring connection that we had in the throne. The back leg then can unhook, and we're going to push through this hand-to-hand grip into the second foot and then just bring it to the ground. Very similar to what we did in the very first thing of just finding that rotation to the ground. So as we go through this, I want to see how far from, how much rotation can we get as we bring the flyer to the ground. So we can play with that in a few rounds and see if we can get a little bit more rotation, each time. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So we got 2, like the butt side of the base. Maybe eventually we could even get it all the way to here or all the way to here again, and just see if we can bring the flyer to the ground further and further into rotation. 1, 2, 3, 4, and down. But that's it. I want to see if we can get that connection with our hand-to-hand grip. Take a hand-to-hand grip this way. And then take your second arm and brace so that we can get this grip here and use that to release the front leg and come around to our ninja star, the backside of the ninja star. From there, who cares? Just bring it to the ground. That's it. Make sense? All right. Give it a shot in 3, 2.
If I release my back leg sooner, then I feel like I don't have enough leverage to push myself up off of his foot.
It's a lot of hip flexors and lower abdominals to draw it into your body and compress in to lift that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
All right. Well, you know, for some of you, real nice work. For others, very mediocre. Very, very mediocre. Not so bad. Nobody doing bad work. Just between mediocre and really good. There's a few things. There's a couple of things that tend to be making this a bit more challenging. One of the things that Emily's recognizing in a lot of people is mostly that what she's saying is that you're lazy. Which is actually just not the way she talks at all.
What I heard is I need more abs.
That is not Emily's voice, but I'm just going to make up Emily's voice and say, y'all are just not working hard enough. And you're just kind of like slumping into this and not actually finding that lift that gives that space for your base to find their next landmark. But one of the other things that I'm seeing a lot here is that our general movements, as we're moving through planes, you know, we're starting off in a seated pose, we're finding a rotation, we're making a grip, and then we're like getting into a completely lateral pose that's spinning, and there's a lot of disjointing that's happening in the upper body, where I'm seeing shoulders collapse, or I'm seeing elbows collapse, or I'm seeing wrist collapse. So it seems to be in the arm line that one of those 3 major joints is finding a moment of relaxation, and we've lost tension. And tension in these things are our friends. We're using tension in order to maintain a inertia once it's been established, and we're going to try to maintain that throughout the rotation that we're doing. And so anytime that there's some movement that happens quick, we shift that smoothness of the rotation that we've initiated, and then that has a recoil effect all the way down through the balance that needs to be mitigated. And because of that, we're all finding different moments of hiccup. And so the things that we're going to mitigate that with are engagement and finding appropriate lift, but on top of that is largely moving slower. Is that if I need to move my arm 90 degrees from here, let me do this way so I don't smack Emily, 90 degrees from here to here, that I don't need to do it slow for the first part and then fast for the last part. That's where things really get funky. But once I establish a speed, even if it's slow, I want to keep that speed throughout the whole transition. And if we all take that moment and slow it all down to that pace, we're going to likely find one of two things. Either more stability and more smoothness, and that's one thing, or that we're going to find this is the moment where we're actually losing stability, and this is the moment where we need to focus on one of the parts of our body losing engagement that is causing that. And so then we can shore that up and hopefully see the next part that then becomes unsmooth because of some level of engagement. So we're going to take a short round and look at this one more time. Only give it 2 or 3 attempts, and then we're going to let it go. But we're going to look at this from a pacing standpoint. And I just want I want you all to watch our pacing and see if you can see at what part we're engaging and at what part we're slowing it down to not let instability overcome us. Yeah, same. And that's it. So right from the very beginning, if we come into our reverse throw, it's this rotation with the base's legs that starts to initiate that. If I turn fast and then stop, we've already had a hiccup. So I'm going to start off in a neutral position, and I'm just going to rotate slowly as I'm bringing my arm up and bending my knees, and all of that happens at one pace. From there, that establishes the pace that the flyer moves. That establishes the pace that the base then moves, and then that establishes the pace that we both move together. So take a moment, again, only 2 or 3 times. See if you can take a look at that level of refinement. See if you can establish either that slowing this down gives us the ability to know where we are in each piece of it and we can move through it smoothly, or that we just evaluate. This is where the instability comes in as we move slowly. So we need to extend the elbow more, we need to rotate the shoulder a little bit less. Whatever it is that your particular needs are going to be will be established once you can identify what moment you've lost that integrity. 3, 2, 1. All right. So much like in the beginning of class where we were working things and trying to establish a strong arm line and move the legs and just trying to isolate and stack things, moving from the back plank to the star where we're bending one and extending the other, trying to find these alignments. We're going to have a few of those things trying to come into play all together at the same time during a rotation to move from this ninja star, backside of the ninja star position into that reverse throw again. And so we're just going to look at it from the ninja star mount and look at that as a method to get back into the reverse throw. Let's go here. So that as we come around this, what we're going to do is we're going to actually take this grip, which is an internal rotation of the base's arm, and an internal rotation of the flyer's arm to take this grip here. And this is one thing that I want us to be able to establish is just this pose here. And in fact, maybe that's just a good thing for us to just play with is this idea of this pose. And even if we were to come right into it, normally we would come into it with a reverse hand-to-hand grip, but what if we took a hand-to-hand grip with an internally rotated arm as opposed to a hand-to-hand grip, which will feel more intuitive to do an externally rotated. So do the less intuitive one, internally rotate and come into your position right here. If you have that, actually let's take this right here to the reverse throw. So the flyer is going to take the top leg and bend it back behind them. The base is going to bring the foot up for the hamstring. And then I'm going to push through the arm and bend the leg so that the flyer can come to sit. Cool. Come on down. You come from the side again. We'll establish a hand-to-hand grip. I am not going to extend my arm all the way. I'm going to keep my flyer's arm strong. If I extend mine all the way, we lose the power of the flyer, and it's quite unnerving for them. So I'm going to find that line that is strong for them. I'm going to rotate so that I can see more of the backside of the flyer, bring the foot to the hamstring, bend that knee as I extend the arm in the hand-to-hand grip, getting the flyer to sit up. Make sense? I see a couple of confused faces. I see some that look like they actually get it. Do you need to see it again? You need to see it again, Chris Porkchop?
Yeah.
All right. One more time here.
That was thumbs up that we got.
So that's it. This is all about really looking at those leverage points and seeing, can I get my flyer to go from a perpendicular to a horizontal, or sorry, from a horizontal to a vertical position. And so it's going to be the bending of the knee and the extending of the arm that is going to get your flyer to go from downright to upright. Downright. And 3, 2. All right. Largely what we're seeing is that there's a fight between overworking the arm, underperforming legs, and that's creating some instability. Underperforming legs, I know, right? I know. Gotta give the bases something to chew on. Come on, bases. Yeah, the legs are like, wow, I'm strong, I know how to push, and so I'm very accustomed to pushing, so let me push. And sometimes they do, they just need to soften more, they need to absorb more, and the arms need to find the extension, the stability, and the rotation. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the first piece and the last piece of this, which you've already done. We're going to put them together, and you're going to take a look at which pieces of this you need to find the refinements in your technique from. One of the things that Emily keeps saying is that the flyers need to find the shoulder of the base through the hand. So the flyer's hand is connected to the base's hand, and they need to use that and put, okay, that's where I can feel the shoulder of the base. If I go a little bit in this direction, I can't quite feel the shoulder. If I go in this direction, I can't quite feel the shoulder. But right there, that's where the shoulder is, and I need to be able to find it. And throughout this rotation, you're going to find the need for the flyer to be able to find the base's shoulder. Bases, in turn, you will also be looking for the flyer's shoulder or elbow, depending on if that elbow is bent. But you're going to be looking to push back through that same line. So we'll talk about that and take a look for that. We rotate, we take our grip, and right here from the beginning, the flyer is finding where that base's shoulder is. I bend, I rotate. As we come here, we're reaching over top of this arm for our new grip with an internally rotated hand as we reach back and we do our bending of the knees and extending of the arms. And in that moment, if we were to go backwards here for a moment, this is where the flyer needs to be able to find the base's arm the whole time. Again, pushing down through the arm, reinforcing that stability, finding the hip, getting a nice soft rotation, overhand grip, bends the knee, extends through the arm to sit. So it's only about 12 steps that you have to remember, really small details throughout in order to find stability. It's not one of those simple things that's just like a hand-to-hand. You got to actually be able to maneuver different parts of the body with different qualities all at the same time, layered on top of each other. Yeah.
So flyers, as you're going from that inside star with the internally rotated hand to the reverse throne, keep your chest up as much as possible when you're taking that top leg over to the foot connection for reverse thrown. If your chest dips and your elbow bends and your shoulder ends up in your ear, it's going to be much harder to regain that power in your upper body. So by keeping your chest lifted and your arm extended, then you have that power maintained the whole time.
And B, that might be the thing that really helps you. Any questions? 3.
Oh yeah,
About 20-ish minutes left, and we're going to look at just a couple of poses, and then we'll look at transitioning between the two of them. One of the poses that we're going to do now that's a little bit different than what we're normally doing is this pose here, which is going to be modification on like a reverse Bosch position. Foot is going to be in an armpit, but then instead of supporting at the hips, we're going to support somewhere around the knee in the hand. And it's going to be kind of the back of the knee. Facing the other direction.
Oh.
Aren't I? Am I not?
I was just doing the whole machine.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. So this is the position we're trying to get to. Simply that. I do have my thumb on the other side here, but it's also fine if you have your thumb next to your fingers. That works just as well. But just looking at this position. Now you can mount there, going from the hip and the shoulder. Where if we know how to get into this, then I just bend until I reach the leg. I'm above the knee, but I'm right by the knee. And I have a good amount of support on the back of the hamstring, as this will eventually rotate backwards. Just that pose. Questions?
Can you demonstrate it again without the full Vashi?
Yeah, just the pose from the ground.
Yes, please.
Like that. Like that. 3, 2.
Hey, I'm feeling like the hand that's on the leg is like getting into a muscle that hurts pretty bad. Where exactly are you wanting it to go?
Worry less about exactly where I want. Worry more about how you can modify it so that it doesn't hurt. So
We're wanting it above the
I'm
knee.
also hurting.
yeah, so everyone, if you're feeling this in a funky place in the back of the knee, you have 4 directions that you can go: north, south, east, and west. You experiment with them to find where it no longer feels like you're moving into connective tissue that doesn't want pressure on it, or muscle that doesn't want pressure on it. What we're generally looking for is to have the it's somewhere more on the back and in this corner here. It doesn't need to be into all of the gushy stuff behind the knee, but it could be higher. It could be a little bit higher if the belly of the muscle feels a little bit better to be in. So if it starts to feel too tender down there, go up a little bit higher. Tim, I'm with you.
So when the flyer falls over me, I pick up with my arm the leg off the ground. It feels like I'm doing a 1-arm bench press, right? With the leg. That doesn't feel like it should be that way. What's the right way to do that?
Use a foot on the hip to mount and then lower it into your arm rather than lifting off the ground that way.
Got it. Makes sense.
This next one is actually the easier of the 2 positions for most people. So we anticipate this will likely have a much more intuitive balance than the last one. That's it. There it is. That's the thing right there. Now you notice the foot's not in the armpit. Instead, we have a reverse hand-to-hand grip, and so that helps us take the foot out of the armpit. I am attempting to keep the flyer parallel to the ground, And so my elbow is bent. If I get my elbow straight, my flyer is not parallel to the ground. So I'm going to let my elbow bend until we get parallel to the ground. And that's it. Let it be the most difficult thing you've done all night. Any questions there? I know, right? I saw that, Rochelle. You're like, woof. That's significant. I know. Big stuff here, big stuff. All right. If there are no questions, I'll give you a 3, 2, 1. That was like the easiest thing you did all night, right? All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at just putting those two pieces in sequence. Those two poses in sequence. Michael, you got a question? Or are you just adjusting your camera? Cool. All right. So we're going to start in our second position, and we're going to move to the first position, and you can take a look at some of the details of that first position again when we get there. So we start off in that first position, and now there's a lot of limbs that are about to move, and so we're going to kind of divide them up so that we each take responsibility for some of them. I'm going to bring a foot up, and the flyer is going to be responsible for that, and then I'm going to be looking for the back of the knee on the other one. And so we end up in this position. And from there, the flyer brings the arm behind their back, and then I'm going to bring my heel to the piriformis, and then I am thinking hips, hips, hips. I am not trying to drive this with the arm. The arm is there to stabilize. One thing that I want us to take a look at here is the trailing leg. This one here that is holding the hip. As we're moving into this next piece, I don't let go of that connection point just because I have these other ones. It follows through and pushes that hip high. I don't wait for it to just drop away from my flyer partway through that rotation. And so I want to make sure that one of the things that we're focused here on is the follow through with each of the last pieces as we're entering the new piece also. That last statement I want you to hold on to, and we're going to look at the whole thing again, but I want us to really be thinking about the follow through of the connection points that we're letting go of and not pulling them out from under our flyers before the transition has come completely off of them. So that's a piece. It's just two poses. And because we have all of these limbs that are flailing independently of each other, I try to think, I'm going to pay attention to the lower half of the flyer's body and whatever parts of my body need to attach to the lower half of my flyer's body. And the flyer pays attention to the upper half of their own body and everything that gets connected to it. So the flyer is thinking more about bringing the foot to the armpit so that I can focus as a flyer or as a base, I can focus more on getting to the back of the knee. I don't worry too much about the armpit foot connection. My flyer's got that taken care of, so I worry about getting to the back of the knee. And then I'm focused more on the hip than on the reverse hand-to-hand grip for the next side. And so I'm not going to let the arm overpower this. I'm going to let the leg be the driving force for it. And again, we really are seeking to separate some of the responsibility so that nobody gets too overwhelmed with too many moving pieces. And I encourage flyer to worry about the top part, bases to worry about the bottom part. Just makes sense. Questions? All right, I see confused faces. Let's see how you do. That's the right direction.
I like that one, Lux. We were successful with that.
That one's fun. That one I wrote with my partner Graham, I don't know, over a decade ago. It's called Corn on the Cob. I don't really know why. Maybe Athena remembers why that's called Corn on the Cob. I don't know. Were you there for that, Athena? No, this was before your time even?
Have you ever done it while eating corn on the cob?
Duh.
It was named with the rotisserie. That's why.
It was named at the same time as rotisserie and meat winder. There was like, we were hungry when those things were being named apparently. And it was summertime, we were thinking barbecue apparently was going on with all of that. But Nadav, this was before your time, right? Yeah, yeah. This, you know, this is I had a darker chin when this was written. What I want to say is thank you so much for all being here and for participating in this. This is really exciting. It's the second time that we've done this, and this is the first time that we had a sold-out session. So it's really very encouraging for us, really flattering. Thank you all so much for participating, for being early adopters to this forum and this technology. It surprisingly works well, particularly when you're well lit. And we really are having a good time watching all of you practice live, real time with us, ask the questions, get the answers, and then hopefully you flip between a nice big demo of us and then at times looking at the grid of the rest of the people that are practicing with you in at least the same time. And I do kind of like the idea of feeling like you're all in my home with me. And also leaving no trace. So I really am grateful that you're cleaning your mess up with you when you leave, and I'm so happy that you're here. Emily, thank you so much. As weeks go on, Emily and I will continue to do this, and Emily will talk more and more as this goes on. It's a new format that we're all still learning, and really appreciate y'all helping us out with it. Take a moment, please, before it ends, and thank your base. Thank your flyer. And for those of you that are fortunate enough, thank your spotters. Thank you, flyer.
Thank you.
Appreciate the hell out of you. Throughout this week, if y'all are working on this material and have questions, please send us a video, send us a message. Happy to take a look at it, give you pointers, and would be thrilled to see you all back here again.